The classroom smelled like chalk and old books. 23 kids sat in tiny chairs, waiting for their turn to speak. It was career day at Greenwood Elementary, and every student had to stand up and tell the class what they wanted to be when they grew up. One by one, they shared their dreams. A firefighter, a doctor, a famous basketball player, a video game designer. Each answer got a nod from the teacher and polite claps from the class. Then it was her turn. 8-year-old Hannah stood up slowly. Her shoes were a little too big for her feet, hand-me-downs from a neighbor's daughter. Her dress was clean but faded, washed too many times. She walked to the front of the room, with her eyes fixed on the floor. "Go ahead, Hannah," the teacher said gently. "Tell us what you want to be." Hannah lifted her head. Her voice came out small, almost like a whisper. "I want to be a concert pianist," she said, "like my mom was going to be." The room went quiet. Not the good kind of quiet. The uncomfortable kind. The kind where everyone looks at each other because they do not know what to say. Then someone laughed. It was a boy named Derek in the back row. He covered his mouth, but the sound had already escaped. A few other kids giggled too, trying to hide it behind their hands. "But you do not even have a piano," Derek said out loud. "My mom said your grandma works at the laundromat. How are you going to be a famous piano player?" Hannah felt her face grow hot. Her hands started shaking at her sides. The teacher quickly stepped in. "That is enough, Derek. Thank you for sharing, Hannah. You can sit down now." But Hannah did not move right away. She stood there for a moment, looking at the faces of her classmates. Some looked away. Some whispered to each other. A few just stared at her like she had said something crazy. She walked back to her seat and sat down without a word. For the rest of the day, she did not raise her hand. She did not talk to anyone. She just sat there, replaying that moment over and over in her head. When the final bell rang, Hannah walked home alone. She lived in a small apartment above a laundromat on the edge of town. The building was old, and the stairs creaked every time she climbed them. The smell of detergent and fabric softener floated up through the floor, mixing with whatever her grandmother was cooking for dinner. Her grandmother was waiting for her at the door. "How was school today?" she asked, wiping her hands on her apron. "Fine," Hannah said quietly, but her grandmother knew her too well. She could see it in Hannah's eyes. Something had happened. "Come," her grandmother said. "Sit with me." They sat together on the old couch by the window. The evening light came through the thin curtains, casting soft shadows on the walls. Her grandmother did not push her. She just waited. Finally, Hannah spoke. "Grandma, do you think Mom would be ashamed of me?" Her grandmother's face changed. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was something deeper. Something that came from years of carrying a loss that never really went away. "Why would you ask that?" she said softly. Hannah told her everything. The career day. The question. The laughter. The boy who said she could never be a pianist because they were poor. Her grandmother listened without interrupting. When Hannah finished, the old woman reached over to the side table and picked up a photograph in a small wooden frame. It was a picture of a young woman sitting at a piano. She had long, dark hair and a gentle smile. Her fingers rested on the keys like they belonged there. "This is your mother," her grandmother said. She was 19 years old in this picture. She had just been accepted to one of the best music schools in the country. Full scholarship. They said she had a gift that only comes once in a generation. Hannah had seen the photo before, but she had never really looked at it. Not like this. "What happened?" she asked. Her grandmother took a slow breath. She was on her way to a practice session one night. A truck ran a red light. She never made it to the school. She never got to play on the stages she dreamed about. She was only 24 years old when she left us. Hannah felt a lump growing in her throat. She had heard bits and pieces of this story before, but her grandmother rarely talked about it in full. It was too painful. "You were only 3, her grandmother continued. "Too young to remember her. But she loved you more than anything in this world. She used to play for you every night before bed. You would fall asleep in her arms while her fingers moved across the keys. Hannah looked down at her own hands. Small, thin, nothing special. But I do not even know how to play, she whispered. Her grandmother smiled gently. That does not matter. Your mother did not know how to play either when she was your age. She learned. She practiced. She fell in love with it, and that love is inside you too. I see it every time you hear music, the way your eyes light up, the way your fingers move without you even realizing it. Hannah did not say anything. She was not sure she believed it. Those kids at school, her grandmother said. They do not understand. They see what is in front of them. A small apartment. Old clothes. No piano. But they cannot see what is inside you, and that is where the music lives. She placed the photograph in Hannah's hands. Your mother is not ashamed of you. She never could be. She is watching you, little one. And she is waiting. Waiting for you to find your voice. Your sound. Your song. Hannah looked at the picture again. At her mother's smile. At her hands on the piano. She tried to imagine what it would feel like to sit at a piano like that. To press the keys, to make something beautiful. But then she remembered the laughter. The looks. The whispers. What if I try, and I fail? She asked. Her grandmother gently touched her chin and lifted her face so their eyes met. Then you try again. And again. And again. Failure is not the end, my child. Giving up is. Your mother never gave up on her dream. Life just did not give her enough time, but you have time. And you have her spirit. I see it in you every single day. That night, Hannah could not sleep. She lay in her small bed, staring at the ceiling. Thinking about everything her grandmother had said, she thought about her mother. A woman she could not remember, but somehow still felt connected to. A woman who had a dream that was taken away too soon. She thought about the kids at school. Their laughter. Their doubt. Their words that stung like little needles. And she thought about the piano. An instrument she had never touched. A world she had never entered. But something had shifted inside her. Something small. A tiny spark that had not been there before. She did not know how she would do it. She did not know where she would start. She had no piano, no teacher, no money for lessons. But for the first time in her life, she felt something stronger than fear. She felt purpose. And somewhere deep in her heart, she made a quiet promise to herself and to the mother she never knew. One day, she would play. One day, she would make her proud. One day, the same people who laughed at her would hear her name and remember this moment, and they would know they were wrong. 3 years passed. But the memory of that day in the classroom never faded. Hannah still remembered every laugh, every whisper, every look. She carried it with her like a stone in her pocket, heavy but hidden. She was 11 now, taller, quieter. She had learned to keep her dreams to herself. When people asked what she wanted to be, she just shrugged and said she had not decided yet. It was easier that way. Easier than explaining, easier than being laughed at again. Her grandmother still worked long hours at the laundromat downstairs. The money was never enough, but they made it work. Hannah helped when she could, folding towels after school or sweeping the floors on weekends. She never complained. She knew how hard her grandmother worked just to keep food on the table. One spring afternoon, Hannah walked past a large old house at the end of Maple Street. She had seen it many times before. It was a Victorian-style home, with chipped paint and overgrown bushes. Most of the kids in the neighborhood thought it was haunted. They said an old man lived there alone and never came outside. But that day, Hannah noticed something different. The front gate was open, and an elderly man was struggling to pull weeds from the garden. His back was bent, and his hands moved slowly. He looked tired. Hannah stopped walking. She did not know why, but something made her speak. "Do you need help?" she asked. The man looked up. His eyes were pale blue, and his face was full of deep lines. He studied her for a moment like he was trying to figure out if she was real. "You want to help an old stranger pull weeds?" he asked. Hannah shrugged. "I do not have anything else to do." The man smiled just a little. It was the kind of smile that looked like it had not been used in a long time. "All right then," he said. Grab a pair of gloves from the porch. That was how Hannah met Mr. Reeves. Over the next few weeks, Hannah came back to help him again and again. She pulled weeds. She raked leaves. She carried bags of soil. Mr. Reeves paid her a little bit each time, just a few dollars, but it was more than she had ever earned on her own. They did not talk much at first. Mr. Reeves was not the chatty type. But slowly, he started to open up. He told her about his wife, Eleanor, who had passed away 15 years ago. He told her how they used to dance in the living room on Saturday nights. He told her how the house felt too big and too quiet without her. Hannah listened. She did not interrupt. She just let him talk. One afternoon in early summer, the sky turned dark without warning. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and within minutes, rain started pouring down. Hannah and Mr. Reeves ran inside just before the storm hit full force. You will have to wait it out, Mr. Reeves said, handing her a towel. That rain is not stopping anytime soon. Hannah dried off and looked around. She had never been inside the house before. It was filled with old furniture, dusty bookshelves, and photographs in silver frames. Everything looked frozen in time, like nothing had been touched in years. Feel free to look around, Mr. Reeves said. Just do not break anything. Hannah wandered through the hallways. She passed a dining room with a long wooden table, a study filled with books, a kitchen with copper pots hanging from the ceiling, and then she found it. At the end of a narrow hallway, there was a door that was slightly open. Hannah pushed it gently, and it creaked as it swung inward. The room was dim, the curtains were drawn. But even in the low light, Hannah could see it. A grand piano. It sat in the center of the room, covered in a white sheet like a ghost waiting to be discovered. Dust floated in the air around it. The room smelled of old wood and forgotten time. Hannah stepped closer. Her heart started beating faster. She reached out and touched the sheet. It was soft and cool under her fingers. Without thinking, she pulled it off. The piano underneath was beautiful. Dark wood polished to a shine. White and black keys that stretched out like a smile. It looked like something from a dream. Hannah reached out and pressed one key. The note rang out clear and pure. It filled the room. It filled her chest. It felt like something waking up after a long sleep. That was my wife's. Hannah spun around. Mr. Reeves was standing in the doorway, watching her. She expected him to be angry, to tell her she should not have touched it, to send her home. But he did not look angry. He looked sad, and maybe something else too. Something like hope. I am sorry, Hannah said quickly. I should not have. It is all right, Mr. Reeves said. He walked into the room slowly, his eyes fixed on the piano. No one has played it since Eleanor passed. I could not bring myself to sell it. But I could not bring myself to play it either. He ran his hand along the top of the piano. His fingers trembled slightly. Do you play? He asked. Hannah shook her head. No. I have never had a lesson in my life. Then why did you press that key? Hannah did not answer right away. She looked down at her hands. The same hands her grandmother said looked like her mother's. My mom played, she said quietly. She was really good. She was going to be a concert pianist. But she died when I was 3. I never got to hear her play. I do not even remember what she looked like without looking at a picture. Mr. Reeves was quiet for a long moment. The rain pounded against the windows. The thunder growled in the distance. What was her name? He asked. May, Hannah said. Her name was May. Mr. Reeves nodded slowly. That is a beautiful name. He walked over to the piano bench and sat down. His old fingers rested on the keys. And for a second, Hannah thought he was going to play. But he did not. He just sat there, looking at the instrument like it was an old friend he had not spoken to in years. Eleanor used to teach, he said. She gave lessons to kids in the neighborhood for almost 30 years. She always said the piano was not just an instrument. It was a voice, a way to speak when words were not enough. He turned to look at Hannah. Would you like to learn? Hannah blinked. She was not sure she had heard him right. What? She asked. I am no Eleanor, Mr. Reeves said. But she taught me a few things over the years. Enough to get you started. And this piano. He paused and looked at it again. It needs someone to love it. It has been silent for too long. Hannah felt something rise in her chest. Fear, excitement, disbelief. All mixed together. I cannot pay you, she said. My grandma does not have money for lessons. Mr. Reeves shook his head. I do not want money. I have more than I need, and no one to spend it on. What I want is to hear this piano again. To know it is not just sitting here collecting dust. He looked at her with those pale blue eyes. Come every day after school. I will teach you what I know. And maybe, just maybe, we will both find something we have been missing. Hannah did not know what to say. Her throat felt tight. Her eyes stung. She thought about her mother, about the dream she once shared with her class, about the laughter that followed, and now, standing in this dusty room in front of this beautiful piano, she felt like the universe was giving her a second chance. Okay. Mr. Reeves smiled. A real smile this time, one that reached his eyes. Then let us begin, he said. Sit down. Let me show you where to put your hands. Hannah sat on the bench beside him. Her fingers hovered over the keys. She was trembling. But for the first time in 3 years, she was not afraid. She was ready. The lessons began the very next day. Hannah showed up at Mr. Reeves's door at exactly 4 o'clock, still wearing her school uniform with her backpack hanging off one shoulder. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her ears. Part of her expected him to change his mind, to tell her it was all a mistake, that he did not really mean what he said. But when the door opened, Mr. Reeves simply nodded and stepped aside. The piano is waiting, he said. And so am I. That first lesson was simple. He taught her how to sit properly, how to hold her hands, how to let her fingers rest on the keys without pressing too hard. He showed her the names of the notes and how to read basic sheet music. It was not exciting. It was not magical. It was slow and careful and full of mistakes. But Hannah loved every second of it. She came back the next day. And the day after that. And the day after that. Rain or shine, hot or cold. She walked to Mr. Reeves' house every afternoon and sat at that piano until the sun went down. She told no one, not her classmates, not her teachers, not even her grandmother. She was afraid that if she talked about it, something would go wrong, that the dream would slip away like smoke through her fingers. So she kept it locked inside her chest like a secret treasure. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into a year, and then another. Hannah was 13 now. Her fingers had grown longer and stronger. Her posture had changed. She no longer hunched over the keys like a nervous child. She sat tall and straight, her back relaxed, her shoulders loose. And the music that came from her hands was no longer clumsy. It was beautiful. Mr. Reeves noticed it early on. There was something different about the way Hannah played, something that could not be taught. Her timing was natural. Her emotions came through every note. When she played a sad piece, you could feel the sadness in your bones. When she played something joyful, you could not help but smile. You have a gift, Mr. Reeves told her one evening after she finished a particularly difficult piece. I have seen many students over the years. Eleanor taught hundreds of children in this very room, but I have never seen anyone learn as fast as you. Hannah looked down at her hands. She still did not fully believe it. I just practice a lot, she said. Mr. Reeves shook his head. Practice can make someone good, but it cannot give them what you have. That comes from somewhere else. Somewhere deeper. He paused and looked at her with those pale blue eyes. It comes from your mother, he said softly. She gave it to you. And now, it is yours to carry. Hannah felt a lump form in her throat. She did not cry. She had trained herself not to cry a long time ago. But she felt something crack open inside her chest. A door she had kept closed for years. At school, things were not so kind. Hannah had always been quiet. She did not have many friends. She sat alone at lunch and walked home by herself. But now that she disappeared every afternoon without explanation, the rumors started. Where does she go every day? Kids whispered in the hallways. Maybe she has a secret boyfriend. someone joked. No way. She is too weird for that. I heard she talks to herself, like actually has full conversations with no one there. The cruelest nickname came from a group of girls in her class. They started calling her the ghost girl. They said she was like a ghost because she was always vanishing, always silent, always alone. Hannah heard all of it. Every whisper, every laugh, every word spoken just loud enough for her to catch. But she did not react. She did not fight back. She just kept her head down and kept walking, because she had a secret they did not know about, a world they could not see, a dream they could not touch, and that was enough to keep her going. One evening, Hannah came home later than usual. Her grandmother was sitting at the kitchen table, peeling vegetables for dinner. She looked up when Hannah walked in. "You have been coming home late a lot," she said. It was not an accusation, just an observation. Hannah froze. She did not know what to say. "I have just been walking around," she lied. "Clearing my head." Her grandmother did not respond right away. She just kept peeling, her old hands moving slowly and steadily. Then she spoke. "Come here. Sit with me." Hannah sat down across from her. The kitchen was warm and smelled like onions and garlic. The window above the sink was fogged with steam. Her grandmother reached across the table and took Hannah's hands in hers. She turned them over and looked at them closely. "Your hands have changed," she said. Hannah's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" "They are stronger. There are small calluses on your fingertips, and you have been moving your fingers in the air when you think no one is watching. At dinner. While watching television, even in your sleep." Hannah did not know what to say. She had not realized she was doing that. Her grandmother smiled gently. "You have your mother's hands," she said. "I have told you that before. But now I see something else. You have her discipline too. Her focus. Her fire." Hannah felt tears building behind her eyes. She blinked them away. "How did you know?" she whispered. Her grandmother let go of her hands and leaned back in her chair. "A mother knows," she said. "And a grandmother remembers. I do not know what you have been doing, or where you have been going. But I know it has something to do with music. I can see it in the way you carry yourself now. You walk different. You breathe different. Something has woken up inside you." Hannah looked down at the table. She could not hide it anymore. She did not want to. "I have been taking piano lessons," she said quietly. "There is an old man on Maple Street. His wife used to teach. He has been showing me how to play. I go there every day after school." Her grandmother was silent for a long moment. Hannah was afraid she would be upset, that she would tell her to stop, that she would say it was a waste of time. But instead, her grandmother reached out and touched her cheek. "Why did you not tell me?" she asked. "I was scared," Hannah admitted. "I thought if I said it out loud, it would disappear. Like it was too good to be true." Her grandmother nodded slowly. She understood. "Your mother felt the same way," she said. "She used to sneak out to practice at the community center when she was your age. She did not tell anyone for months. She was afraid someone would take it away from her." She paused and looked at Hannah with soft, tired eyes. "But no one can take this from you, my child. It is already inside you. It always has been. You just needed someone to help you find it." Hannah finally let the tears fall. She did not wipe them away. She just let them come. Her grandmother stood up and walked around the table. She wrapped her arms around Hannah and held her tight. "I am so proud of you," she whispered. "And your mother would be too." They stayed like that for a long time. Grandmother and granddaughter, holding each other in the warm little kitchen above the laundromat. Outside, the world kept spinning. The kids at school kept whispering. The rumors kept spreading. But inside that tiny apartment, something had shifted. Hannah was no longer hiding. She was no longer afraid. She had found her voice. And soon, the whole world would hear it. She just did not know it yet. The flyer was old and wrinkled. Mr. Reeves had found it tucked inside a drawer while cleaning out his study. He smoothed it out on the piano and waited for Hannah to arrive. When she walked in that afternoon, he did not say hello. He just pointed at the paper. "Read it," he said. Hannah picked it up and scanned the words. Regional Young Artists Piano Competition. Open to students ages 14 and under. First place winner receives a full scholarship to the Weston Summer Music Conservatory. Her hands started to tremble. "This is for real pianists," she said. "People who have been training their whole lives. I have only been playing for 3 years." Mr. Reeves crossed his arms. "And in 3 years, you have learned what most students take 10 years to understand. You are ready, Hannah. You just do not believe it yet." Hannah shook her head. "I cannot do this. What if I mess up? What if I freeze? What if everyone laughs at me again?" She had not talked about that day in 3rd grade for a long time. But it was still there, still living inside her like a scar that never fully healed. Mr. Reeves sat down on the bench beside her. He was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Do you know why I offered to teach you?" he asked. Hannah shook her head. "Because when you pressed that key for the first time, I saw something in your eyes, something I had not seen in years. Hunger, not for fame, not for money, but for something real, something that mattered." He turned to face her. "Your mother had that same hunger. I never met her, but I can feel her in the way you play. She did not get her chance, Hannah. Life took it from her. But you are still here, and you have a chance she never had." Hannah looked down at the flyer again. The words blurred through the tears forming in her eyes. "What if I fail?" she whispered. "Mr. Reeves put his hand on her shoulder. "Then you will fail knowing you tried. And that is 1,000 times better than spending your whole life wondering what could have been." Hannah did not answer. But that night, she filled out the application and mailed it before she could change her mind. The weeks leading up to the competition were the hardest of her life. She practiced every single day. Sometimes for 3 hours. Sometimes for 5. Her fingers ached. Her back was sore. There were nights she could barely sleep because her mind kept running through the notes over and over again. She had chosen her piece carefully. It was not something Mr. Reeves had suggested. It was something she had found on her own. One evening, while going through her grandmother's closet looking for an old sweater, she had discovered a box hidden in the back corner. Inside were things that had belonged to her mother. Letters, photographs, a dried flower pressed between the pages of a notebook, and at the very bottom, a cassette tape. The label was written in faded ink. It said, "May, Final Recital, 1998. Hannah's hands were shaking as she dug out an old cassette player from the junk drawer in the kitchen. She put the tape in and pressed play. The sound that came out was scratchy and worn. But underneath the static, she could hear it. Her mother, playing the piano. The piece was long and emotional. It started soft and slow, like a whisper. Then it grew. It swelled. It crashed like waves against the shore, and then it softened again, ending with a quiet, aching beauty that made Hannah's chest tighten. She listened to it once, then again, then 100 more times. She learned later that the piece was called Ballade No. 1 by Chopin. It was one of the most difficult piano compositions ever written. Concert pianists spent years mastering it. Hannah decided she would learn it in 6 weeks. Mr. Reeves thought she was crazy. He told her it was too advanced, too risky, that she should pick something safer. But Hannah would not listen. "This is the piece," she said. "This is the one my mother played at her last performance. If I am going to do this, I am going to do it the way she would have." Mr. Reeves looked at her for a long time. Then he nodded. "All right," he said. "Then we have a lot of work to do." The day of the competition arrived faster than Hannah expected. She stood outside the concert hall with her grandmother on one side and Mr. Reeves on the other. The building was tall and grand, with white columns and wide stone steps. People in fancy clothes walked past them, talking in low voices. Hannah felt like she did not belong. "I cannot do this," she said under her breath. Her grandmother squeezed her hand. "Yes, you can." They walked inside together. The lobby was filled with other young musicians. Some were warming up in corners. Others were pacing nervously. Parents whispered encouragement. Teachers gave last-minute advice. Hannah kept her head down and followed Mr. Reeves toward the registration table. And then she saw it. Near the entrance to the main hall, there was a small bronze plaque mounted on the wall. She almost walked past it. But something made her stop. She read the words slowly. In memory of Mei Lin Chen. A rising star whose music touched all who heard it. May her spirit live on in these halls. Hannah could not move. She could not breathe. Her mother had performed here. In this very building. On this very stage. And now, 21 years later, her daughter was about to do the same. Mr. Reeves came up beside her. He read the plaque and then looked at Hannah. She is here with you, he said quietly. She always has been. Hannah wiped her eyes and nodded. She did not trust herself to speak. The competition began. One by one, young pianists took the stage and performed their pieces. Some were flawless. Some made mistakes. Some played with passion. Others played like machines, technically perfect but emotionally empty. Hannah watched from the side of the stage, waiting for her turn. Her hands were cold. Her heart was racing. She felt like she might throw up, and then she heard her name. Next performer, Hannah Chen. She walked out onto the stage. The lights were bright. The audience was a sea of shadows. She could not see their faces, but she could feel their eyes on her. She sat down at the piano. It was a beautiful instrument. A Steinway Grand. The same kind her mother had played on all those years ago. She placed her fingers on the keys, and then she froze. The fear came rushing back. The laughter from third grade. The whispers in the hallways. The doubt that had followed her for years. What if she messed up? What if she forgot the notes? What if everyone realized she was just a poor girl from above, a laundromat who had no business being here? The silence stretched on. The audience shifted in their seats. The judges glanced at each other. And then, in the stillness, Hannah heard something. A voice. Soft and gentle. Like a memory she could not quite place. Play for me. She did not know if it was real. She did not know if it was her imagination. But it did not matter. She closed her eyes. She took a deep breath, and she began to play. The first notes came out soft and fragile. But as she continued, something changed. The fear melted away. The doubt disappeared. It was just her and the music now. Nothing else existed. Her fingers moved across the keys like they had a life of their own. The melody rose and fell. It whispered and roared. It told a story of loss and love, of pain and hope, of a daughter reaching across time to touch her mother one last time. When the final note faded into silence, Hannah opened her eyes. The audience was still. No one moved. No one spoke. And then, from somewhere in the back, someone started clapping. Then another person, and another. Within seconds, the entire hall was on its feet. A standing ovation. For her. For the ghost girl. For the daughter of Mei Lin Chen. Hannah sat at the piano, tears streaming down her face. She had done it. And somewhere, she knew, her mother was smiling. The applause seemed to last forever. Hannah stood up from the piano bench on shaky legs. She bowed once, then twice, not sure what else to do. The lights were so bright she could barely see the audience, but she could hear them, clapping, cheering. Some people were even crying. She walked off the stage in a daze. Her grandmother was waiting in the wings with tears running down her face. She pulled Hannah into her arms and held her so tight it was hard to breathe. "You did it," her grandmother whispered. "You did it, my sweet girl." Mr. Reeves stood a few steps behind them. He did not say anything. He just smiled and nodded, his old eyes wet with emotion. The rest of the competition passed in a blur. Other performers took the stage. The judges wrote notes on their clipboards. People whispered and pointed at Hannah whenever she walked by. She did not care about any of it. She had already won something no trophy could measure. But when the results were announced 2 hours later, her name was called first. First place, Hannah Chen. The crowd erupted again. Hannah walked back onto the stage to accept the award. A woman in a dark suit handed her a small, golden trophy and an envelope. Inside was a letter confirming her full scholarship to the Weston Summer Music Conservatory. She stared at the words like they were written in a foreign language. This was real. This was actually happening. After the ceremony, people crowded around her. Strangers shook her hand and told her how moved they were by her performance. Teachers from music schools handed her their business cards. A man from a local newspaper asked if he could interview her. Hannah answered their questions as best she could, but her mind was somewhere else. She kept thinking about her mother, about the plaque on the wall, about the cassette tape she had listened to 100 times. And then she saw her. An elderly woman was standing near the back of the lobby, watching from a distance. She had silver hair pulled into a neat bun and wore a simple black dress. Her hands were clasped in front of her, and her eyes were red like she had been crying. Something about her felt familiar. Hannah excused herself from the crowd and walked toward the woman. As she got closer, the woman's face changed. Her lips trembled, her chin quivered. She looked like she had just seen a ghost. "Excuse me," Hannah said softly. "Do I know you?" The woman shook her head slowly. "No, but I knew your mother." Hannah felt her heart stop. "You knew her?" The woman nodded. "I was her teacher for almost 10 years. I was in the audience tonight. And when you started playing..." She paused to wipe her eyes. "For a moment, I thought I was hearing May again." Hannah could not speak. She just stood there, staring at this stranger who had been part of her mother's life. "She talked about you. You know," the woman continued, "even before you were born. She used to say she could not wait to teach you how to play. She wanted to pass it on. The music, the love, everything." Hannah's throat tightened. "I never got to meet her. Not really. I was too young to remember." The woman reached out and gently took Hannah's hands in hers. She looked down at them for a long moment. "You do not just play like her, dear," she said quietly. "You carry her. In your fingers. In your heart. In the way you breathe between the notes. She is alive in you. And tonight, everyone in that room felt it." Hannah could not hold back anymore. The tears came fast and hard. She did not care who was watching. She did not care what anyone thought. She just stood there and cried like she had been holding it in for 14 years. The woman pulled her into a gentle hug. "She would be so proud of you," she whispered. "So incredibly proud." The news spread quickly. By the next morning, the whole town knew about the girl from above the laundromat who had won the regional piano competition. The local newspaper ran a front-page story with her picture. The headline read, "Daughter honors mother's legacy with stunning performance." People who had never spoken to Hannah suddenly wanted to be her friend. Teachers who had ignored her for years now praised her in front of the class. Even the principal called her into his office to congratulate her personally. But the moment Hannah would never forget happened in the hallway between second and third period. She was walking to class when she saw a group of girls standing near the lockers. The same girls who had called her the ghost girl. The same girls who had whispered and laughed behind her back for years. They were not laughing now. One of them stepped forward. She looked uncomfortable, like she did not know what to say. "We saw the article," she said quietly, "about your mom, about what you did." Hannah did not respond. She just waited. "We did not know," the girl continued. "We did not know any of that stuff. About your mom. About what you were going through." Hannah looked at her calmly. "You never asked." The girl flinched. She opened her mouth to say something else, but nothing came out. Hannah walked past her without another word. She did not need an apology. She did not need their acceptance. She had something they could never give her. She had herself. That evening, Hannah sat with her grandmother by the window in their small apartment. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The sounds of the laundromat hummed softly below them. Her grandmother was holding the old photograph again. The one of May at the piano. But this time, she was not sad. She was smiling. "She is at peace now," her grandmother said softly. "I can feel it. For years, I carried this weight. this sadness. I always wondered if her dream died with her. If everything she worked for was lost. She turned to look at Hannah, but it was not lost. It was waiting. Waiting for you to find it. To carry it forward. To finish what she started. Hannah leaned her head on her grandmother's shoulder. I wish she could have seen it. Her grandmother kissed the top of her head. She did, my child. She saw every note. Every tear. Every moment. She has been watching you your whole life. And last night, she was sitting right beside you on that stage. They sat together in silence as the last light of the day faded. Hannah thought about everything that had happened. The wish she made in 3rd grade. The laughter that followed. The years of loneliness and doubt. The hidden room. The dusty piano. The old man who gave her a chance when no one else would. And now, a scholarship. A future. A path forward. Her simple wish had come true. Not because it was easy. Not because anyone handed it to her. But because she refused to let go of it. Even when the whole world told her she should, she reached into her pocket and pulled out the photograph her grandmother had given her years ago. She looked at her mother's face. At her hands on the piano, at the smile that seemed to glow from somewhere deep inside. I did it, Mom, she whispered. I hope you are proud. A soft breeze came through the open window. It brushed against her cheek like a gentle hand, and somewhere in her heart, Hannah heard the answer. I always was. Outside, the stars began to appear one by one. The world kept turning. Life kept moving, but for Hannah Chen, everything had changed. She was no longer the girl who had been laughed at. She was no longer the ghost girl who disappeared every afternoon. She was a pianist. A dreamer. A daughter who had honored her mother's memory in the most beautiful way possible. And this was only the beginning.